Hi guys, I am Levi Sauerbrow. You can find me on social media at NerdButler or check out nerdbutler.com for more content. And yesterday we were talking about ransomware, just defining what it is. So today's part 2 where I tell you how this might happen to you and what you can do to maybe avoid it taking over your computers. Day 12 of our 30-day video challenge is here, so here we go. You'll notice I'm in a different spot today, and that's because today was a travel day. I am actually in Kansas City, Missouri, visiting some friends and family. So it is even colder here than it was in Dallas yesterday, but I'm loving it. There's a little snow on the ground. Winter is in the air. Today we're going to talk a bit more about ransomware. Okay, so yesterday we defined ransomware as the act of a malicious bad guy breaking into your computer or your computer system and encrypting all of your data and then basically ransoming it back to you, meaning you give them some money, they'll give you the keys to unlock your data. How does this happen? There's a couple of different ways, but a lot of them are the same ways that any kind of hacking happens. So when you hear about a data breach in the news, that means that someone gained access to a computer system that they weren't authorized to gain access to and took data that they weren't authorized to take. With ransomware, you gain access to the computer system and then you perform an encryption algorithm that locks up all of that data. How do you gain access to a system that you're not supposed to be in? There's a couple different ways of doing it, and some of these phrases you may have heard, you may have not. It's possible, although it usually doesn't happen this way, but it's possible that a disgruntled employee or a disgruntled former employee who hasn't had their accounts turned off yet has an actual password to get into the system. More often what happens is there will be a security flaw in the computer system involved, or the hacker will gain access through what's called a phishing attack. A phishing attack is when you send an email that looks like a legitimate email from the company saying, for instance, we need to update your user profile for the company. Please click this link and enter your login credentials and choose a new password. But that email didn't actually come from the company's IT department. It came from some outside actor who is going to use that information to gain access to those computers. Phishing, by the way, we'll put that hopefully down here, is PHISH, phishing. So that's one main way that things can be broken into in terms of computer systems. Another way is through social engineering, which is something as simple as, you do some research on a person, you find out the information that they would have used to answer their security questions, then you call up the IT support line and you say, man, I'm really sorry, my name is John Smith, I forgot my password, could you help me reset it? Oh sure, Mr. Smith, what was your mother's maiden name and what are the last 4 digits of your social security number? You give them those 2 pieces of information, that proves that you're you, even though you aren't, and then the IT person resets your password, tells you what it is, and you are into the system. So social engineering and phishing are 2 of the main avenues in which people can gain access to systems. Once they have access to the system, they have the hackers will have tools that will encrypt the data. The tools used for the attacks are actually out there on a black market, which can be purchased by anybody who wants to take a shot at this. So the technical expertise required to execute a ransomware attack continually gets lower as the tools get better, in much the same way that using spreadsheets way back in the day was very difficult because you had to know a little bit of computer programming, a little bit of scripting language in order to get the formulas you wanted. Over time, the spreadsheet software got more sophisticated, more complex, and what that meant was that people with a lower level of training could do greater and greater things with it. The same thing is true for the tools that hackers use. So social engineering, phishing attacks, and misconfigured security are the 3 main avenues for a ransomware attack. So let's talk briefly about what you, either as an individual or as a business owner, can do to avoid these 3 areas. The first one is really simple. Keep your systems updated. When there's a new security patch that comes out and your system says, we need to restart to update, you need to do that. The second thing you can do is to try and avoid phishing attacks. You need to be very wary when someone asks you to provide personal information, asks you to click on a link, asks you to do something. Double check those emails. It might be something as simple as noticing that even though the name in the email at the top says the CEO's name, the email address is at a different domain. So it's CEO's name at notyourcompany.com. that email didn't come from your CEO, and the link in that email that he's asking you to click on in order to view the quarterly financial report isn't a legitimate link. If something comes into your inbox from, your grandmother or your aunt, and it just doesn't sound like them, you're immediately suspicious. Have that same suspicion when it comes to your company email or emails coming from your cell phone company, from a service that you purchase like Netflix or Hulu or something like that. If you get an email from them that doesn't sound like any email you've ever gotten, you should stop and double check that. Maybe call the 1-800 number customer service to get clarification. So that's security and that's phishing. The third one is social engineering. Social engineering is a little tougher. There's a couple things you can do to sort of tighten up that area. One of them is to use two-factor authentication wherever it's available. If you don't know what that is, that means you get a text message with a 6-digit code when you try to log in from a new computer. Or in some cases, you're actually provided with a physical device that shows you a 6-digit number that you have to type in every time you want to log in. Two-factor authentication is a really good way to prevent social engineering, because with two-factor authentication, even if the bad guy manages to change your password to something they know but you don't, they still can't log in because that little code that you need is being texted to your phone, or it's being produced on that device that you have in your possession. So that's one really good way to work on that. Look for two-factor authentication on lots of services. I use it on Twitter, I use it on my Google account, I use it in all the places that are really important to me. Other ways you can prevent social engineering. This one takes a little bit of work, but when you have a security question that says something like, in what city did you meet your wife? What was your grandmother's maiden name? Something like that. Don't provide an answer that is true. Now you're going to have to write down that answer somewhere on a piece of paper or put it into LastPass or some other encrypted place that you trust. Even a note on your iPhone would be okay, but make sure you write it down somewhere. But don't provide a true answer, because that answer is something that can be discovered by someone who is trying to social engineer their way into your accounts. Security is an ever-changing, ever-evolving thing, and it's never going to be perfect, but there are some basic steps you can take to help yourself out. Tomorrow, on day 13 of our 30-day challenge, we're going to talk about what to do if you actually are the victim of a ransomware attack. I'll give you a hint now. It involves some work before the attack happens, so there's no magic pill, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Guys, thank you so much for listening. My name is Levi. You can find me on social media at NerdButler, or check out nerdbutler.com for more. Please leave a comment on this video. Hit me up at NerdButler anywhere on social media with questions, comments, criticisms. We will continue this series until we hit 30 days, and then we'll evaluate and see how we're doing with our video. I hope you guys have a great time, and I will talk to you again.